Hi, I'm Tim. Welcome to Watchbox, and thanks for logging on. If you love this watch, email me, tmosso@thewatchbox.com. It's in the description below. Your purchase and pricing email question line for buying this or any watch you see on any Watchbox platform. Reach out to me directly. Email tmosso@thewatchbox.com for pricing. Today, we're discussing the Rolex Oyster Perpetual Day-Date Oyster Quartz. This is reference 19018 in full yellow gold with blue lacquered Jubilee dial. This watch has it all going on. It is 36 millimeters in diameter by 12.5 millimeters thick and only 42.1 millimeters from lug tip to lug tip. This model was made from about 1977 to 2000, 2001. It's not entirely clear. The last year in the catalog was not necessarily the last year of production, but I believe the last cataloged year was 2001. It is a very rare watch. All Oyster Quartz models were made in perhaps 25,000 copies, that's both day-date and date-just, over a quarter century, making these some of the scarcest modern-era Rolex watches. The example you see here has a serial number in the 6 million range that corresponds to roughly 1980. Now, the watch wears easily. It is a wonderful integrated bracelet design that Gerald Genta considered to be his own. He designed the original Rolex 5100, the Texan, and he considered the Oyster Quartz series to be a continuation of the use of that design. Therefore, if you're wondering where this very 70s integrated bracelet case style started, well, it started in the mind of Genta as elaborated by Rolex, and it's an easy one to wear, being so short across the wrist. It's suitable for a wrist as small as 13 centimeters circumference, and it's flat enough that it will fit underneath the cuff, no issues there. The watch is very versatile, and while it was designed as a man's watch back in the 70s, there is no doubt it wears well on just about any wrist, and the impact of the gloss blue dial with the yellow gold is magnificent. I will say this, Rolex Bracelet Stretch is a real thing on these. This one has some play. It has structural integrity, but it also has a degree of motion that speaks to a lot of use over time. So keep that in mind. The bracelet does feature removable links fixed by screws, and you can see there are removable links on both sides. We have a clasp that maintains wonderfully tight tolerances. It is effectively a crown clasp, just like a standard day-date would be. The only visible partition point is the 5-point coronet. We have a combination of satin and polish, and as you can see, the bracelet is both integrated and tapered and hand-finished in wonderful fashion. The case is very much of its era. Designed in the 70s, it has a combination of a vintage tonneau profile and a modern angularity to it. There's a break between satin and polish, and you can see this case has been worn and refinished over the years. This watch is best described as a strong daily driver, not necessarily a time capsule piece. This is not the apex of investment watches. This is a wonderfully preserved watch that's been used honestly, maintained well, and retains outstanding aesthetics and usable condition. Now, these watches were among the first in the Rolex catalog to use sapphire crystals, and you have that here. We have a magnifier over the metallic gold date disc. We have a day and a date. We have open 6s and open 9s. Jubilee dial, what I referred to earlier, is this repeating Rolex motif, and it's got a wonderful glossy blue lacquer on it. It's not metallic so much as it's a gleaming wet appearance that you get when lacquer is employed. We have a combination of gilt or gold style printing on the dial, and then we have golden numerals, golden Rolex crown, and golden hands. And as you can see, the watch includes hands that are constructed of vintage tritium, which quickly fades away when the light is out. So I wanted to show you this so there would be no doubt. It goes dead very, very quickly. There's no remaining or no meaningful tritium activation left. So these are not self-activating tritium hands anymore. They are true patina. And the nice thing about them is that the patina kind of matches the color of the gold. So it's actually more coherent than it would have been when made. Now you can see that there is a reliable start-stop tick to this escapement. And that's because the caliber 55 internally. It is a Rolex manufacturer caliber, unlike the Beta 21 and the Texan. This movement is designed with a Swiss lever escapement, one of the few quartz calibers ever constructed as such. It creates an instantaneous jump, a loud pronounced tick, and it stops instantly on the mark on the index as a result of being locked by a conventional wheel and lever. Now, there's more going on inside this movement. It is thermocompensated and a quartz chronometer. Quartz chronometers are extraordinarily rare today. They were almost unheard of in the 70s and 80s. So it's also thermocompensated, which means unlike most quartz movements, this one doesn't fluctuate much in extreme hot or extreme cold because it has a second quartz circuit that spot checks the primary. The two compare notes, and then it indexes to maintain even timekeeping, even in temperature extremes. There's also a quartz trimmer built in because over time a quartz crystal will engage in what's called drift, and the quartz crystal will become predictably less accurate. And by isolating that inaccuracy and then countering it with the quartz trimmer, the watchmaker at Rolex is able to extend the life of this movement over decades, and it is a lifetime serviceable movement. Not just the lifetime of the owner, but of the watch itself. This movement, though electronic, was designed to go the distance. It has a life of about 2 to 4 years between battery replacements, so keep that in mind. It's an 11-jewel movement with a surprising amount of traditional watchmaking internally for I would call it an electromechanical movement, because that's really what it is. It does have hacking seconds, and it does feature a quick set date mechanism and has a wonderfully serify font. In its day, it would have been 100 meters water resistant, but I recommend as a vintage watch today, that theory not be tested. A wonderful daily driver oyster quartz if you want something genuinely different, eye-catching, easy to wear even on a small wrist, and scarce, especially by Rolex standards. Reach out to Team Mosso at thewatchbox.com for purchase and pricing details. Oh, one more thing. If you want more than just knowledge that this was a quartz chronometer, deviation is about 2 to 5 seconds gained per month. Not bad.